Well, we just wrapped up some amazing sessions on P2P, on stewardship, on fundraising, rhythm making. So the first three speakers that we had today as part of a fundraising summit really talked about fundraising strategy. And the next speakers, Brennan and Drew Jessup, I'm really excited about this topic because it's more about website branding and design. So, how do you transform strategy into something visual? How do you really tell the story? How do you really communicate that? So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart since I love branding, I love website stuff. We're actually rebuilding our website now today at Cosvox. So and we should launch that in a few weeks. So I'm actually curious. Maybe can I get a few tips from Drew and Lee on how we could better brand Cosvox? But for you all at our audience today, the question is in their session, how do you really build an impactful website that inspires action? So over here, we have Lee, we have Drew. Hey, guys. Uh, and they're at Sunday Roast. It's an agency that does some amazing work when it comes to graphic design, branding, SEO work. So I'm really excited just to kind of see and learn about their work as well as how that translates to fundraising. We have some fun tips over here, fun facts about Lee. For example, he loves to wind down by meditating and playing a song or two on the guitar. So I'm not sure if we're gonna experience some of the great sounds from Lee today. If you have your guitar, we'll love to hear from you. And Drew, I believe you are head of growth strategy at Sunday Roast. So really excited just to have you on today as well. So without further ado, I just want to hand it over to you guys. I know that, well, one more thing on housekeeping. We have a lot of people just kind of joining in and out today. I'm really excited about the 100 and plus, 130, 150 plus folks attending live right now, as well as the 700 folks who registered for our summit today. These sessions are being recorded, notes are being taken, and you will receive this sometime tomorrow, including the presentations. So without further ado, Lee and Drew, I'm gonna hand it over to you guys.
Perfect. I don't have my guitar for us today. Maybe at another time. So yeah, I'm Lee Brennan, founder and creative director of Sunday Roast. As mentioned, Sunday Roast is a branding agency that partners with small to large scale purpose-driven businesses, be it nonprofits, charities, or for-profit businesses that run some form of give back model, for example, in order to help push people, profits, and benefit the planet. We've already been introduced, but I'm speaking with my partner, Drew, who can introduce himself further if needs be. But Drew will get us started today. So we'll let Drew take over.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Lee. Excited to be here. Thanks for having us today. And yeah, I'm Drew. I'm the head of growth strategy here at Sunday Roast. So help a lot of clients with brand strategy, web strategy, and messaging. So we'll be kind of diving into that today, and then chatting about building an impactful website to inspire action. So hopefully everybody can see my screen here. The first thing when we're talking about inspiring action is the big burning question is why? Why are we doing this? Why does the organization exist? It's one of the most difficult questions to answer. And in situations where, organizations are founder-led, usually that lives within the founder's head, and sometimes it's not always communicated to the rest of the organization. And that's true across the board for a lot of companies that we work with. So this is always where we start, just to make sure that we can answer this question. So keep that in mind as we go through this presentation. And then one of the reasons why it's important is because we need to clearly delineate the difference between why, what, and how. So why does our organization exist? What does it do? And how does it do it? This is something that we call the golden circle, and anybody who's familiar with Simon Sinek would probably know this framework. But it's extremely important as a starting point to develop clear messaging and just communicate properly to our target audience. So this really needs to be understood internally before we can communicate it outwardly. That's why we always want to start with answering that question of why, because your why is not your what, and it's not your how. It's more aligned with, you know, call it a mission statement, call it a vision statement. Different people call it different things, but we really need to make that distinction between the three to write actionable, clear, and emotional copy for a website. So once we have this, then we can ask ourselves, what is job one? So what is job one for our website? What's the primary goal? Not to be, different websites have a lot of different goals, but there's always something that's most important. And since we're speaking at the CauseVox Summit today, we can assume that job one for most people is securing donations. So that's what we'll be focusing on. But I will say that the rules that we're applying here are useful outside the boundaries of securing donations. This is something that's kind of the foundations of writing clear copy for anything. We're just applying it to donations today. So the first thing we like to do is create a personalized impact story. So this is kind of the bridge from the organization to the person that we're talking to, our target audience. So there's a couple of rules to keep in mind here when writing copy. The first thing is be a toddler. Always ask yourself why. So when you're you know, speaking with say a 2-year-old, they've got a lot of questions for you. Why is this the case? Why is that the case? Why this? Why that? So it's always good to be sort of curious, put yourself in the mind of the target audience when you're writing copy, and ask yourself why. Why does this matter? Can I say it? Are we scraping the surface here? Can we go deeper? Because we need to really convey that emotion. We need to be clear about it, and we need to communicate why we exist in the first place. This is going to go so far to creating an emotional connection with the target audience, and then inspiring that action to create, you know, more donations and more positive impact for the organization. The second thing is, we need to connect this to the daily life of our audience. So, you know, what does their day-to-day look like? So think about, we've all heard a cup of coffee a day. So the popular example is, for the price of a cup of coffee a day, you could create, you know, this impact, or this could happen, or you could have this positive effect. So that's probably something that's been done. We're going to stay away from that, but the principle still stands. We need to connect it to somebody's daily life. And if we can do that, then we can show the impact that we can create, and we can eliminate barriers to the feeling of sacrifice around donating to a particular cause. So I want to talk for a second about the anatomy of a good headline. So we can use the acronym ACE, which the A stands for actionable. So the copy needs to be actionable. It needs to create some sort of feeling of, I know what to do here. I need to take action on this. So copy is always an extension of your user experience. So, you know, part of our job at Sunday Roast is to create a great user experience for websites, and a good portion of this is the copy. So the copy needs to help direct users around the site. It needs to tell them what to do and invite them to take action on how they can do it. And then we also need to make sure that the copy is clear. So if there's any sort of if there's any confusion, then it's just not going to connect. So we have less attention span than a goldfish now, and that's actually, you know, thanks to things like social media. It's actually decreasing year over year. So within the past decade, I think our attention span has decreased by 2 seconds. So We all know this from scrolling feeds, and every day we're just inundated with thousands of ads. So we need to make this connect clearly and quickly. So a good rule there is that people don't read. And what we mean by that is that the trend in web design now is that headlines are becoming bigger, they're becoming bolder, they're sometimes shocking. They're just meant to create that that impact with people, and we don't have much time to do that. So it needs to be clear. Also needs to be emotional. So 79% of consumers buy based on values. So if we're not communicating our values to our target audience, then we're losing out. So we need to share our values, we need to evoke empathy, and we need to personalize the message. And this is where we can use our why. So today we've got an example of a site that we just found. We have no really affiliation with them. We're just kind of using them as an example. And the headline, so this organization sort of exists to eradicate hunger. We're in Canada, so we chose kind of a local organization. And they do this locally, they do it nationally, they do it globally. So their headline is, "Take your passion to help others and join us. Together we'll transform hungry and starving children's lives here in Canada and around the world." So if we look at this in terms of the ACE framework, we can ask, is it actionable, is it clear, and is it emotional? So starting with actionable, we're asked to join, but we're not exactly sure how. So the copy doesn't really help the user experience. It doesn't check the boxes for job one, and we're not entirely sure what it is that we're supposed to do. So this certainly doesn't help us to secure any donations. Is it clear? We understand what the organization does, but we don't really understand why they do it. What problem are they trying to solve? It's lacking hierarchy between the headlines to create this distinction for the user experience. We don't really know what to do next or what's expected of us. And then, is it emotional? So hunger, malnourishment, there's an emotional connection there, but it's only part of the picture and it doesn't really connect it to our daily life. So we've taken a couple of, we've taken this and kind of chased it back upstream to look at their mission. So their mission is to engage Canadians, especially youth, in helping to feed those who are hungry, malnourished, and starving in Canada and around the world. So if we put this through the golden circle framework, we can see that their why is to end starvation, starting in their own backyard. So they have a local connection. They're trying to work locally to create a national and a global impact. So their why is really to end starvation. The what is to secure, package, and deliver highly nutritious meals to underprivileged communities. So here we're talking about what they do, but we're not talking about how they do it just yet. So then in the how, we're talking about implementing promotional campaigns to raise awareness for food insecurity and enroll today's youth as volunteers to help with packaging food. And they also organize community partner networks to secure food vendor supply chains and delivery to local communities. So we can see here that how they do this is not why they do this, and what they do is not also why they do it. So these three things really need to be clearly delineated. But in the how, we can see that we have two jobs for this site. And the first one is secure donations, because without donations, this organization can't exist. So that's kind of the lifeline of the organization. So that really needs to be taken care of. But the other thing that we're seeing is we need volunteers to be part of this as well. So the problem that exists here is something that we need to touch on to create that emotional connection. So we're trying to end starvation starting in our own backyard. But why are we trying to do that? So a little bit of research shows that 18% of Canadian households were food insecure in 2022. And for those not from Canada, there's about 40 million people in Canada. So approximately 7 million people are affected by this. That's a large, staggering number, and we need to communicate that. So to put this through the ACE framework, we've redeveloped the copy here to share the why. We're not so much, we're touching a little bit on the what, but we're not overwhelming users with that fact. So we can say that 1 in 5 families in our community aren't eating tonight. There is an emotional connection there. And for the cost of a Netflix subscription, you can gift dinners for a family in need, sponsor a family, and we're giving the price right there. So this kind of takes a different spin on what their donation campaign was. It was very ad hoc and kind of, donate what you can, but we've sort of condensed that into, this is the impact that you can create. So you can gift dinners to a family in need. You can sponsor a family for $20 a month. We've touched on the fact that the problem is, 1 in 5 families in our community aren't eating tonight. So we've brought that kind of local connection to a national problem. And in terms of Netflix, it might seem a little left field, but this is kind of a spin on the cup of coffee a day example. So there are 20 million Canadian subscriptions to Netflix. That's about 50% of our population. So this kind of is a modern day cup of coffee. So a little bit of research shows that, this is something that will emotionally connect with people. It's something that puts it into their field of vision, and they can understand, okay, that's, me sitting down on the couch watching Netflix. If I were to invest $21, then I could be feeding a family for that. So we're kind of touching on the fact that there's not a lot of sacrifice involved in creating a big impact here. And then, so that was job 1. And then job 2 is signing up volunteers. So again, why are we doing this? It's to eradicate hunger. So to show that, the headline copy reads, eradicate hunger in a single afternoon. So these, they have food packaging parties that they need volunteers for to package up healthy meals so they can be delivered across communities in Canada and globally. So we're showing that connection between not making much sacrifice to make a huge difference. So volunteer for local food packaging party and put food on the table for 7 million hungry Canadians this week. So there's an immediacy there. It's very actionable. Sign up to volunteer. So this touches on not only action, it touches on clarity. So we know exactly what we want the user to do here. And there is this emotional connection with, okay, my time is very valuable and can have a big impact on feeding 7 million people. So with that, we'll touch on how to bring that to life on your website.
True. So once you've got, you've worked through this process to craft and create this this key message, it's important that it actually does something once you get to your website. It's important that we don't lose any of that impact when we get there. So to understand in more context how to better have a clear, personalized message on your website, we're going to look a little deeper the overall design of a website, and we'll continue to use the example of Kids Against Hunger. We'll take a quick look at the UX in conjunction with the new headline that Drew has just presented, and see how we can make small adjustments to improve the message and experience for visitors to your website. So this is kind of the above the fold homepage of Kids Against Hunger. And we'll just go through these points that I've outlined here real quick before we move on. So number one, the header is actually very tall, and we lose some of the above fold real estate. And it may not seem like much, but this actually has an effect on some of the lower elements, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Number two, the donate button. While this call to action is important, the positioning feels somewhat misplaced, and it's awkwardly floating kind of mid-site. Also, the spacing around this call to action is off balance, creating the effect of it being way too close to the hero banner image and really far away from the navigation. But in actual fact, what they've done here is squash it within this additional white space below the header. Number three, this whole corner is eye-catching, but almost too much so, and it just becomes a little overwhelming. It really draws your eye into that top corner. And while all these call to actions may be important, we have to create a hierarchy and give priority to the calls to action that matter the most. Otherwise, users won't be able to decide where to click, and we actually might lose out on some of those users taking action. This doesn't mean that we lose the other calls to action. We just need to strategically place them in other areas of the site. Number four, while this is an impressive number that they want to show off, this positioning is adding to the overwhelm of that corner. And it is actually redundant. If you visit the website, immediately below the fold, beneath that hero banner, they have the same stats. And dependent on your browser size, sometimes you can actually see both stats at the same time, and it just becomes a lot. Number five, this is a great photo. It shows the impact and efforts of Kids Against Hunger, not only for those in need of food, but also with the focused effort of having youth volunteers. The minor issue is that it is a very busy image, and any content used will cover people's faces, which is not always great. And it's the reason why that headline has been pushed all the way to the bottom of that hero banner, which again brings its own problems. 6 through 8, talking about that headline. So 6, as mentioned previously by Drew, there is no separation between what should be considered a heading 1, which is vital for your SEO efforts, and all supporting content within the banner, be it heading 2, heading 3, however that styling and sizing fits, which just leads to an unclear heading overall. As I said in point 5, due to the image content, the headline has been pushed to the very bottom of the hero banner. And unfortunately, again, depending on your browser window size, the headline can actually end up being pushed the opposite way and get cut off below the fold and disappear down the page. So you have to scroll in order to finish reading, which is not ideal for your hero banner key message. And then just really quick for number 8, just a quick mention that the line breaking on this headline, the long to short to long to short widths of lines makes this even more difficult to follow. Adding some hierarchy, as mentioned in point 6, will help, but it's also important that users can easily read your website headlines, and so a more natural line break will help with that. I would also advise to not have hard line breaks like this, because when your website responds to mobile sizes, you're going to create even more lines of content that are unnecessary and become a little messy. So what can we do on this particular site to improve the user experience and messaging as a whole? I did a quick 10 to 20-minute redesign to show you how we could improve this page and create a much simpler UX with proper focus on our headline, key messages, and the calls to action. So just kind of following the same format, I'll go through those same points and kind of let you know what we did quickly here. So number one, we shortened that header. This means we are not losing that important real estate above the fold, and we have more control over the sizing and height of the header. We have better streamlined call to action positioning. So a nice big call to action in the top right for donate now, and then tied to that, more specifically worded calls to action within the hero banner slides, which leads us to point 3, where we have focused calls to actions. It's not overwhelming. It's very clear what we want you to do. And we have adjusted the color of the calls to action to be more inviting as well. I know a lot of people use red, but there can be negative undertones attached to that color. And in my mind, red means stop, green means go. So if we're utilizing the green color that they have, that's the kind of invitation that we want people to see and feel to be able to get in there and start that donation process. Point 4 were the stats placed in a strategic manner. So removing them from that corner, having the stats peek out from below the fold, lets users know there is more valuable content further down the page, and we can then lead them into deeper pages within the website. It's not overwhelming, although it's an impressive number. We can just about see that, and that'll lead people to scroll down into the site. Excuse me. More appropriate imagery. And yes, I changed the design to account for the headline to have a nice, clear, plain background. But more appropriate imagery, something that connects to the headline, with options to see more, as we said, having a slideshow as we've designed here, and the ability to add multiple calls to action in order of priority. Imagery that evokes positive feelings and showing the results of user donations also leans into the E of the ACE headline framework and keeps things attached to people's hearts and emotions. And then to the main headline itself. So this headline is better positioned. It's clearer to read. There is a natural flow to the line breaks. It's been styled in a headline for heading 1. So for the larger headline, 1 in 5 Canadian households in our community aren't eating tonight. That's grabbing people's attention. Then we have the supporting content for the cost of Netflix subscription. You can gift dinners for a family in need. Tells you what kind of the action required is. And then the button to get people to click through to donate with a sponsor a family for $29.99 a month. The next slide will show you the second headline. So keeping that nice busy image, really showing the joy of the volunteers that are part of the process. Eradicate hunger in a single afternoon, become part of this awesome movement for local food packaging parties to be able to help 7 million hungry Canadians this week. Again, with a clear, specific call to action of what we want them to do, which is to sign up to volunteer. So the message, the journey, the expectations are clearly set here. And just as importantly, they are just as easy to follow. With our goal being to secure donations, we need to continue our improvements once users have actively clicked on that call to action to donate. So we're also going to take a quick look at what currently exists on the Kids Against Hunger donation page. Ignoring the same issues we have already identified from the homepage, here are some additional issues we can fix to try and continue to streamline this process. So point 1 here, the title, there's nothing wrong with the title itself, but with the amount of options users have here. We feel there could be more context and more information about how donations are dealt with, what exactly they are used for. Users know they will be donating, which is why they're on this page, because they've clicked the call to action. Let's just try and make it a more informative decision. Connected closely to that is point 2. When a user clicks on one of these 5 boxes, it takes them straight to a separate page, to a donation form with 0 information about that particular cause. And unless I've missed it somewhere in the website, which I do not believe I have, that information is nowhere else to be found within the website. So people are just seeing 1 million meals, they're clicking on it, and they're donating to it. So unless you already have knowledge about these causes prior to this page, you're not going to have any context or information about what that is. Not only that, but there will be a lot of unnecessary back and forth for those who do want to learn about them and hopefully donate to multiple causes. So instead of going back and forth at least 5 times to make an informed decision, people aren't going to do that. So we need to give them as much information as possible up front. Number 3 is maybe slightly nitpicky on my part, but you can see that the boxes are different sizes, which is just not very well presented. The highlights around each box is quite distracting as well. So just cleaning up the appearance and the structure of the website is something that we would want to do as well. Overall, any website, this is kind of point number 4, just a kind of a general note. Overall, any website can quickly lose at least a portion of its credibility with its outdated and unpolished design and approach. And so just making those updates, making those small tweaks can just minimize and mitigate anybody kind of come to this page and thinking, I'm not sure I fully trust this website, let's move on, go somewhere else. So again, how can we improve this user experience and create a clear message with the donations page specifically? Having everything people want and need in an easy to follow, informative structure where they don't have to go back and forth and can still submit an informed donation. So number 1, your donations matter because. Let's have more context. It doesn't have to be an essay. It doesn't have to be too much, but just some quick context of your donations matter because this is what we're trying to accomplish, and we need your help. Just gives that touch of extra context for why they should be submitting that donation. Number 2, kind of to the point of going back and forth, all the information you need to make an informed donation lives on one page in an organized and easy to find fashion. You can create an accordion similar to this, where you can open and close these boxes on the left-hand side there, hit those plus symbols, and that'll open up and give you some information, some context about what this cause is and how it works and why they need donations. Connected to that is the CauseVox donation form on the right-hand side. Is that through CauseVox, you do have the ability to create a drop-down box within that donation process to say, okay, I now know about Giving Hope and 1 million meals and all these different causes. I can specifically choose whether I want to donate to one of these causes or if I want to make kind of a general donation. And that can be integrated on all part of the donation process through the CauseVox forms. Could there be an image on this page? Sure, there could possibly be a hero banner. There could be an image somewhere on the left-hand side. But this would push the important kind of quick hitting information lower on the page. And we want to make it as easy as possible to get those donations. So if this above the fold approach, kind of clean and simple approach, feels like something's missing, we can add more imagery and content underneath that kind of primary goal of getting people to donate. So across these two quick redesigns, we are showing you how to implement the messaging you have spent time creating to your website in a simple, easy way in order to improve conversions on your donations. And so here is a little recap on what we've been through. Number one, what impact are you trying to create? That's important. You need to know what it is that you're doing. You need to make a clear distinction between why, what, and how. Always ask why. You need to get to the core of the problem, and you need to get to the core to the solution. So ask why, until you find those core reasons and core answers. Once you have those core answers and you have that distinction between why, what, and how, utilize the ACE framework for creating headlines. Make it actionable, keep it clear, make it emotional. Once you have that clear messaging, make sure you're not wasting that clear messaging with an outdated, untidy, unstructured website, and apply it in ways that are going to keep the message simple, clear to understand, and actionable, so people know exactly where they need to go on your website to donate, volunteer, or whatever other goals you may have. And then number 6, secure donations. Now, I'm not sure where we're at for time here, but before we jump into kind of answering any questions, I just wanted to remind you or let you know that as part of our participation today, you will all get our Purpose Unleashed PDF for free that will be sent out. I think as Rob was saying, any kind of assets and recordings will be sent out this week. So our Purpose Unleashed PDF will be within that. And as part of this PDF, you'll be able to uncover some secrets of purpose-driven strategies that will empower brands to boost returns, increase lifetime value, and command higher prices. So you can go through that and enjoy the information that we've put together for you there. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you've got something that you can take away with you. But I think we have a little bit of time to answer a few questions here, should there be any.
Yes, thank you so much, Lee. Thank you for the session. We got some interesting feedback from the audience in terms of loving the examples that you shared. So thank you for doing that. We do have a few questions that I'd love to present to y'all. So the first one is from Lindsay. How would you balance keeping things concise on your website without it being too little information and not too much information? How do you balance basically the content length of how folks present their story or share information about their cause?
Mm-hmm. I think focusing on the homepage is where you can keep the message nice and simple, clean, short, and concise to grab people's attention and make it really clear what that message is. But there's nothing to say that, you know, with a call to action or a hyperlink leading people further into the website, that more information can't be built out. So from the homepage, we've got the you know, some calls to action to learn more. On that next page, that's where you can truly build out more in-depth information to make sure all the information that users will need is there. There are also frequently asked questions are a good thing to have as well, where you can, whether it's a section on a homepage or on a different page or just a full FAQ page entirely, there are ways that you can have that information initially, but then dive deeper and give more information once users are working their way through the website.
Yeah, so it's almost like the homepage is more of a teaser, and then folks can dive deeper, and then the homepage links off in certain sections to more information about the programs, the services, fundraising campaigns, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah.
Great, thank you for that. I have another question from Carrie. Carrie's asking, how would you structure your website when the main purpose of the site is to provide viewers or users with educational resources. So even though donations are really important, usually the donate section gets kind of buried since the main focus is on educational resources. And how would you prioritize these two different, essentially like pieces of content?
I'll let Drew answer that one if he wants to.
Yeah, if I understand correctly, and let me know if I'm off base here, Rob, but I would say there's probably a kind of flagship product that we're looking at, and hopefully that is the case for this this question. But prioritizing whatever it is that we want users to get involved with first, it can create some hierarchy. So if there is that kind of flagship product, and making sure that has kind of the primary real estate on the site. And in terms of information architecture, the homepage, like we said, should be kind of a snippet of what the organization is about. But once you get into, maybe there's delineations for different types of education. So you could use secondary pages to kind of dive deeper into those particular subjects and give the user all the information that they need to know there. But I think the thing across the board is chasing back to the why. So what's that primary pain point? The audience is obviously different than who we talked about today, but what's that primary pain point that we're solving for them, and wrapping that into your copy to answer why these products exist.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like, yeah, no, go ahead.
Sorry, Rob. I was just say, just reading Carrie's question there, talking about where the donation page gets buried. Should we change the homepage when we're specifically running donation campaigns? I would say yes. Like if you have a specific campaign that you need additional donations for, or it's kind of important for a specific amount of time, utilize something like a slideshow, or update the hero banner, or use, depending on what platform your website is built on, use like an announcement bar above your main navigation. There are a few different tools and ways that you can bring kind of seasonal importance to different campaigns or different campaigns and donations that you're working on at any given time. So I would just add that in there as well.
Awesome. And let's do one last question from Dacia. Dacia's saying that at they're nonprofit, they have a lot of programs. Is it better to go with a handful of pages and really deep dive into the program per page? Or is it better to have just multiple pages that talk about different parts of the program? What's the best way to structure?
It's an interesting question. I think for me, if there are different maybe topics or different parts to a single campaign, say, then creating different pages for each of those pieces of information would be beneficial, especially for things such as like SEO efforts. The more keyword rich you can be about specific things on separate pages, that will build your SEO. So I don't think the amount of information is always what you should split it up by, but maybe topic or theme is more important, so that you can add those keyword rich elements. You can add clear messaging for those specific things, and then the amount of content that is there, obviously we don't need it to be, you don't want to scroll through pages and pages and pages of a single topic, but as long as the important information is there and it's a clear message, then that's important. Hopefully that kind of answered the question. Feel free, Drew, to
just a short piggyback off of that. I would say websites have to serve marketing purposes. So SEO is definitely part of it in terms of categorizing it and organizing it. I would maybe organize it by, again, the pain point or the problem that we're solving, or is it a different person altogether that we're solving it for? So you can kind of delineate by persona, and you can delineate by problem. So to Lee's point, though, not everybody comes into your site from the homepage. So if you have keyword rich copy, then they might be coming directly into that particular page. So just something to keep in mind.
Well, it looks like we're pretty much at time. Lee, Drew, thanks so much for your time today in presenting some of the website tips and action items that folks can take in enhancing their nonprofit's website. Now, if folks are looking for more information about yourselves or Sunday Roast, where should they go?
Yeah, you can get in touch with us and look to signing up to our weekly newsletter, The Roast. You can visit our website, www.sundayroast.agency. There'll be more information about us and a link to book a call and options to join our newsletter and all sorts. So we'll hopefully hear from some of you in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Jen and I both dropped the Sunday Roast website link at the same time in the chat, so feel free to click on that. Drew, Lee, thanks so much for your time today.